The temple courtyard was silent, except for the wind rattling the bamboo stalks. Ethan's heart pounded as Master Hoshin stepped forward, his calm gaze holding an edge of fire. The master said, "Ethan has lost his path." The words cut like a blade, leaving the disciples frozen in disbelief. Ethan felt as if the ground beneath him had vanished, every belief crumbling into dust. Lucas smirked faintly, whispering, "Even your master doubts you." Ethan's breath trembled, shame washing over him. Sarah, the fellow disciple, lowered her eyes with sorrow, though her stillness spoke of compassion. In that moment, Ethan's soul was pierced by doubt sharper than any sword. He wanted to scream, yet silence gripped him. The temple bells echoed across the valley, each strike feeling like a judgment. Master Hoshin closed his eyes, whispering, "Only when the path is gone may truth begin." Ethan stood at the edge of the courtyard, his mind racing like a river in flood. Every word of Master Hoshin echoed in his chest, unrelenting and heavy. He whispered to himself, "I am lost, perhaps unworthy." Lucas walked past him, chuckling, "At last you admit it." The sting of mockery carved deeper wounds, yet Sarah's soft gaze caught Ethan's eyes from across the courtyard, offering a quiet anchor. Master Hoshin remained still, a mountain unmoved by storm. Ethan wanted to ask why, but his throat locked. The temple bell's echo lingered, a cruel reminder of his shame. His body felt small, his spirit even smaller, as though swallowed by the silence. The courtyard emptied slowly, disciples returning to their chambers, whispers carrying in the morning air. Ethan lingered alone, shadows lengthening as the sun rose higher. He muttered, "I cannot find the path if it has been taken from me." His words carried no answer, only the faint rustle of bamboo leaves. Sarah approached gently, her footsteps soft, eyes kind but unreadable. She said, "The path is not lost, Ethan. It only hides until you stop chasing it." Ethan looked at her in disbelief, the bitterness in his chest clashing with her calm. He turned away, but her words lingered, refusing to release him. Lucas leaned against a stone pillar, watching Ethan with sharp amusement. "She feeds you riddles," he scoffed. "Better to face the truth. You are not meant for this." Ethan clenched his jaw, words trapped behind anger. Sarah remained silent, her calm composure a counterweight to Lucas's sharpness. The tension between them pressed against Ethan's chest like an iron weight. He said softly, "Perhaps they are right. Perhaps I am chasing nothing." His voice cracked with the confession, and Lucas's smirk deepened. Yet Sarah's stillness was unbroken, her eyes carrying a quiet strength that unsettled both men. Master Hoshin reappeared, his steps deliberate, the weight of his silence greater than any voice. Ethan dropped to his knees, tears pressing at the corners of his eyes. He cried, "Master, have I failed you?" Hoshin looked down, expression neither harsh nor kind, simply present. "Failure is only a word the mind clings to," he said. Ethan's sobs shook his chest, shame flooding like a river breaking its banks. Sarah bowed her head respectfully, while Lucas turned away, hiding his unease behind disdain. The morning sun glared through the bamboo, painting long shadows that stretched across the ground like unspoken truths. Ethan sat in the meditation hall, the incense curling upward like a serpent of smoke, yet his heart refused to be still. His breaths came shallow, each one broken by restless thoughts. He whispered, "Why does silence feel so loud?" Master Hoshin sat at the far end, his eyes closed, yet his presence felt heavier than stone. Lucas, seated nearby, shifted with impatience, his smirk hidden behind folded arms. Sarah maintained her posture, her back straight, her face serene. Ethan's legs ached, but it was his spirit that screamed louder than the pain. He clenched his jaw, frustration boiling. His whispered voice cracked, "Peace escapes me." The sound was swallowed by the endless hush of the hall, as if even his words betrayed him. The hours passed, but still Ethan's mind churned like a storm. His body trembled with exhaustion. He thought, "I am chained, not freed by this silence." Master Hoshin suddenly struck the wooden clapper, its sharp crack piercing the hall. Ethan startled, eyes snapping open. Stillness is not emptiness, Hoshin said firmly. Lucas chuckled quietly, shaking his head, but Sarah kept her eyes closed, a faint smile at her lips. Ethan felt the shame of his weakness burn through him, his heart slamming against his chest like a caged bird. He whispered, "Then what is stillness if not void?" His voice was trembling, his question hanging like a plea unanswered. After the session, Ethan staggered outside, air rushing into his lungs like fire. The temple courtyard glowed under mid-morning light, bamboo leaves whispering. He pressed his palms against his face, muttering, "I am a hollow vessel." Lucas leaned on the stone railing, arms crossed, voice sharp. Finally, some honesty. Ethan lowered his hands, eyes burning with shame. Sarah approached quietly, her steps deliberate. She said, "A vessel is only useful when empty, Ethan." He froze, her words striking him harder than Lucas's ridicule. His lips parted, but no sound came. The courtyard seemed alive, the air heavy with meanings he could not grasp. Ethan retreated to the small pond near the temple garden, his reflection trembling on the water. He whispered, "This face knows nothing." His voice cracked as if speaking to a stranger. Master Hoshin appeared behind him, silent until his words struck. "A mind that clings to knowing blinds itself to truth." Ethan spun around, startled, shame weighing heavier. His chest tightened. "Then what is left of me, Master?" he asked. Hoshin's gaze pierced through him yet remained tender, saying, "Only the self you refuse to abandon." Ethan's throat tightened, his reflection blurred by rippling water. For the first time, he felt the weight of his own chains. That night, the meditation hall was lit by lanterns, shadows stretching long across the floor. Ethan sat again, his spine bent, his breaths shallow. Lucas whispered mockingly, "Already broken." Ethan ignored him, closing his eyes tightly. Sarah sat nearby, her presence radiating quiet strength like a still river. Ethan thought, "I want to let go, but I don't know how." His fists trembled against his knees, the pain in his body matched only by the turmoil in his heart. Suddenly, Master Hoshin's voice cut through the stillness. "Surrender is not defeat. It is freedom." Ethan's lips parted, tears stinging his eyes, the words sinking deeper than he wished. The morning sun climbed higher, casting sharp light over the courtyard as Ethan knelt before Master Hoshin. The master handed him a heavy wooden bucket filled to the brim with water and said, "Carry this to the mountain top without spilling." Ethan's arms shook even before he lifted it, doubt burning like fire in his veins. Lucas leaned on a nearby pillar, muttering with a grin, "Hell spill it before the first step." Sarah folded her hands gently, her expression calm but filled with quiet concern. Ethan rose, legs unsteady, breath uneven. He whispered to himself, "I must endure. I must not fail again." The task seemed impossible, yet the weight of his shame pressed him forward. Ethan struggled up the stone path, each step rattling the bucket, droplets spilling onto the earth. His shoulders screamed with pain. He hissed through his teeth, "Hold steady. Do not break." The path twisted steeply, stones biting into his sandals. Lucas followed behind, laughing, "Every drop you lose proves you are weak." Ethan's jaw tightened, sweat dripping into his eyes, vision blurring. Sarah walked silently at a distance, her presence a silent prayer. Master Hoshin's voice echoed faintly from below, "You must break before you are whole." The words sank into Ethan like knives. He staggered but forced himself forward, defiance and desperation blending in his breath. Halfway up the slope, Ethan collapsed to one knee, the bucket tipping dangerously. Water sloshed over the rim, soaking his robes. He gasped, "I cannot carry this weight." Lucas laughed sharply, his voice cutting through the air. "Even water escapes you, Ethan." Rage flickered in Ethan's eyes, but despair pressed harder. Sarah stepped forward, her voice soft as falling rain. "The water is not the burden, Ethan. Your mind is." He froze, her words stirring something beneath his torment. Yet the bucket trembled in his grip, his strength fading. He whispered hoarsely, "If I let go, I fail." The mountain wind howled, carrying his words into emptiness. Ethan forced himself to rise again, his body trembling as if breaking apart. Each step felt like an eternity, his arms numb, shoulders screaming. The bucket shook wildly, water splashing onto the stones. He cried out, "Why must I suffer this trial?" Lucas scoffed, "Because you deserve it." Sarah's eyes softened, her voice steady, "Because suffering teaches what ease cannot." Ethan's mind burned with confusion and fury. His legs gave way again, slamming him to the ground, buckets spilling in a shimmering arc. He slammed his fist on the stones, shouting, "I am breaking!" His cry echoed off the mountain walls, raw and unrestrained. As the water ran down the stones, Master Hoshin appeared on the slope, his presence grounding the chaos. He said calmly, "You must break before you are whole." Ethan's face twisted with despair. "Then I am nothing but fragments," he choked. Hoshin's gaze was steady, unflinching. "Fragments are the beginning of truth." Ethan dropped his head, tears falling into the dirt. Lucas looked uneasy for the first time, crossing his arms but saying nothing. Sarah closed her eyes, whispering silently as though in prayer. The mountain air grew still, the silence pressing heavier than the burden of the bucket. Ethan's body shook, caught between surrender and resistance. Night fell across the temple grounds, stars shimmering above as Ethan sat alone, his reflection caught in the still pond. His voice trembled. "Why does my failure haunt me?" Shadows moved like memories on the water. From behind, Master Hoshin's voice broke the silence, calm but piercing. "Your suffering was never about the bucket, Ethan. It is about your clinging." Ethan's chest tightened, words spilling. Clinging to what? To duty? To success? Hoshin's eyes glowed faint in lantern light. "To perfection," he said. The word struck Ethan like thunder, echoing inside his bones. His breath caught, and for a moment, the pond rippled as if agreeing. Ethan stared at his reflection, its ripples distorting his face into fragments. He whispered, "If not perfection, then what am I?" His voice cracked like dry wood. Master Hoshin knelt beside him, robes folding neatly, and said, "You are not broken. You are bound by illusion." Ethan's eyes widened, anger and confusion colliding. "Illusion? Everything feels real. My shame, my failure." Hoshin's tone remained steady. "The rope of expectation ties tighter than any chain. Release it." Ethan clenched his fists, the weight of realization pressing, yet his spirit resisted. "How do I release what has ruled me?" he asked, voice near breaking. Lucas emerged from the shadows, his smirk half hidden by moonlight. "Illusions, Master? Or excuses for failure?" His voice was sharp as a blade. Ethan turned, face pale, shame thickening. Sarah stepped from the opposite side, her voice soft but firm. "Truth often looks like weakness to those who fear it." Lucas scoffed. "Then weakness has consumed him." Ethan's throat tightened, the conflict tearing him apart. "I don't know what is real anymore," he whispered. Master Hoshin closed his eyes, the night breeze ruffling his robes. "Reality is not what you cling to, but what remains when you let go." The wind carried whispers through the bamboo, rustling like unseen voices. Ethan felt his chest ache as if crushed by unseen hands. "If all I hold is illusion, then what am I without it?" His cry pierced the still night. Master Hoshin answered, "Free." The word fell heavy, resonant, undeniable. Sarah's eyes glistened, silent tears reflecting starlight. Lucas shifted uneasily, arms dropping slightly as though shaken. Ethan pressed his palms into the earth, trembling. "Free," he repeated. The sound fragile, a question more than belief. For the first time, silence did not suffocate him. It opened like an endless sky, above. Ethan rose slowly, his body heavy but his spirit lighter. He whispered, "All this time I fought shadows." His eyes met Master Hoshin's, and for a heartbeat clarity flickered. The master nodded, saying, "You cannot fight what was never real." Ethan's lips trembled, his heart caught between grief and release. Sarah bowed slightly, her presence a gentle affirmation. Lucas turned away, shadows hiding his unease. Ethan closed his eyes, a deep breath filling his chest for the first time without chains. The night air cooled his skin, the bamboo swayed, and in that fragile silence a seed of truth began to grow within him. The temple hall was lit only by flickering lanterns as Ethan sat cross-legged, his body trembling, sweat dripping onto the wooden floor. His mind raged with doubt and exhaustion, each thought like fire against his skin. He whispered, "I cannot fight anymore." Lucas stood at the entrance, arms folded, sneering. "Then you are finished." Sarah knelt across the room, her voice calm. "Surrender is not defeat, Ethan." His chest heaved, tears filling his eyes as he shook his head. Master Hoshin's voice pierced the silence, low and steady. "Let go, and you will see." Ethan's body collapsed forward, palms pressed against the floor, breath breaking. Ethan's arms gave out, his forehead pressed to the floor, tears soaking into the wood. "I am nothing," he gasped, voice raw. Lucas whispered mockingly, "Finally, you see the truth." Master Hoshin stepped closer, robes brushing softly, his voice cutting clear. "No, Ethan, nothingness is freedom." Ethan's breath hitched, his body racked with sobs. Sarah lowered her head, her lips moving in silent prayer. The sound of crickets outside drifted into the hall, soft and steady, as though echoing Hoshin's words. Ethan lifted his head slowly, his face streaked with tears, and whispered, "Freedom," as if tasting the word for the first time. Ethan lifted himself onto his knees, his eyes swollen with grief but glimmering faintly with clarity. He whispered, "If I let go, what remains of me?" Master Hoshin's voice resonated like a bell. "Only what was always true." Lucas shifted uncomfortably, his smirk fading as the weight of silence pressed. Sarah's gaze locked onto Ethan, her eyes reflecting hope. Ethan pressed his palms together, fingers trembling, and said, "I am tired of being at war with myself." His voice cracked but carried a strange release. A deep breath expanded in his chest, the first, not bound by chains of expectation. Suddenly, Ethan's body shook as if every wound of pride, shame, and fear cracked open at once. He cried out, "I surrender." His voice echoed against the temple walls. Tears flowed without restraint, his body collapsing again to the floor, arms stretched wide. Lucas took a step back, startled by the rawness of the cry. Sarah's hands pressed together, her whisper carried only by breath, "At last." Master Hoshin closed his eyes, his face serene as if witnessing a long-awaited storm break. The lantern flames flickered higher, shadows stretching long as Ethan's sobs filled the silence with truth unhidden. The sobs slowed, and Ethan lay still, chest rising and falling in heavy rhythm. Silence wrapped the hall, yet it was no longer suffocating, it was alive. He whispered through ragged breath, "Peace." The word was not forced, it flowed. Master Hoshin stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on Ethan's shoulder, saying, "You have arrived where you always were." Ethan's tears softened into quiet release, his face easing from torment to stillness. Sarah's expression glowed with relief, her eyes moist but calm. Lucas looked away, shadows hiding his unease. For the first time, Ethan's breath was steady, free of battle. Morning light broke gently over the temple grounds, the mist lifting from the earth as Ethan walked slowly across the courtyard. His steps no longer carried urgency, but flowed with quiet rhythm. He breathed deeply, every inhale steady, every exhale free. Sarah stood near the garden, watching him with soft relief in her gaze. Lucas lingered at the steps, his smirk gone, replaced by uneasy silence. Ethan whispered to himself, "The chains are gone." Master Hoshin passed by, nodding faintly, his eyes calm but satisfied. The bamboo swayed lightly in the breeze, and for the first time, Ethan felt no weight pressing against his chest. Ethan stood beneath the tall bamboo, their rustling no longer a distraction but a song. He whispered, "The wind speaks and I listen." Sarah approached, her voice tender. "You see now what was always here." Ethan smiled faintly, not forced but effortless. Lucas muttered under his breath, "Peace is just another illusion," yet his eyes betrayed doubt. Master Hoshin rested his hands behind his back, saying, "Illusions fall away when silence becomes your teacher." Ethan closed his eyes, his chest rising steady as the wind caressed his skin. For the first time, silence felt alive rather than empty. By the pond, Ethan crouched low, his reflection no longer fractured but steady in the still water. He whispered, "I see myself, yet I am not trapped by it." Sarah joined him, her voice warm. "Acceptance carries no chain." Lucas hovered nearby, watching silently, his usual mockery absent. Master Hoshin placed his hand on Ethan's shoulder, firm and grounding. He said, "The truth is not found, Ethan. It is lived." Ethan's lips curved into a quiet smile, tears welling not from grief, but release. The pond shimmered with sunlight, ripples expanding gently, as if mirroring his awakening. Ethan walked slowly along the temple path, the stones warm beneath his sandals. Each step felt light, as though carried by the earth itself. He whispered, "I am not searching. I am walking." Sarah followed behind, her face glowing with peace. Lucas trailed further back, arms folded, expression torn between doubt and longing. Master Hoshin observed from the veranda, his eyes soft with unspoken approval. The bamboo swayed, and the sky stretched wide, painted in soft morning hues. Ethan stopped, breathing deeply, smiling gently. The world no longer felt like a prison, but like an open gate. At the heart of the temple garden, Ethan paused, surrounded by flowers blooming in morning light. He whispered, "Peace is not something I chased. It was waiting." Sarah bowed slightly, her expression filled with joy. Lucas turned away, yet his eyes flickered with unease, as though moved despite himself. Master Hoshin stepped forward, his voice calm. "The path was never outside of you, Ethan. It was always here." Ethan's breath flowed steady, his heart light, his face radiant with newfound clarity. The garden rustled softly, petals drifting in the air, carrying with them the quiet weight of truth. The evening sun cast long golden streaks across the temple courtyard as Ethan sat quietly on the stone steps. His hands rested gently on his knees, no longer clenched but open. The silence around him felt vast but no longer threatening. He whispered softly, "I am here." Sarah stood nearby, her face glowing with pride and serenity. Lucas lingered in the shadows of a pillar, his usual arrogance gone, replaced by thoughtfulness. Master Hoshin approached slowly, his steps unhurried, his gaze steady. "The seeker is no longer searching," he said. Ethan smiled faintly, his breath flowing free, his eyes calm as still water. The sound of the temple bell resonated through the valley, low and deep, as Ethan closed his eyes and breathed with its rhythm. "Each sound passes, each silence remains," he whispered. Sarah bowed slightly, her robes flowing with the soft breeze. Lucas looked down at the ground, his lips pressed together as if unsure of his own place. Master Hoshin stood tall, saying, "The bell does not cling to its echo. Learn from it." Ethan opened his eyes slowly, the corners wet, not from grief but from peace. The courtyard glowed under the fading sun, a canvas of stillness and light. By the garden's edge, Ethan walked slowly, watching petals drift onto the ground. He said softly, "Nothing holds, yet everything remains." Sarah joined him, smiling gently, her voice calm. "You have seen it, Ethan." Lucas trailed behind, arms crossed, but his face carried no scorn, only confusion. Master Hoshin plucked a flower, holding it briefly before letting it fall to the wind. He said, "The bloom teaches impermanence. You do not mourn its fall, because its truth is in its moment." Ethan's heart swelled, his breath steady as the flower spiraled downward. He whispered, "Then I too am enough in this moment." The temple veranda overlooked the valley, where the horizon burned with hues of orange and purple. Ethan stood there, hands resting lightly on the wooden rail. He whispered, "The world has not changed, yet I have." Sarah stood beside him, her eyes glistening as she said, "Peace reflects peace." Lucas remained a step behind, his silence carrying more weight than his usual sharpness. Master Hoshin placed both hands behind his back, saying, "You no longer seek the path, you walk it." Ethan's eyes welled softly, a faint smile rising on his lips. The valley below shimmered as the sun sank lower. As the last light of the sun slipped beyond the horizon, the temple fell into deep calm. Ethan remained still, his eyes fixed on the fading glow. He whispered softly, "I am not lost. I am here." The words lingered in the cool air, weightless yet eternal. Sarah bowed her head, her breath steady. Lucas closed his eyes briefly, a faint shadow of peace crossing his face. Master Hoshin looked upward at the first star, his expression unchanged yet knowing. The bamboo swayed with the night wind, and silence stretched vast as the sky. In that silence, Ethan was whole.